Hello everyone. So in the previous class we had started discussion on PN junction diode. The last topic which we covered in PN junction diode was the IV characteristic of a PN junction diode, and we had seen that for a PN junction diode in the forward bias state the current flowing through it is very small unless and until the forward bias voltage exceeds a particular threshold value, which is basically called the cutting voltage or the threshold voltage. Okay, so now we will be looking into the equivalent circuit of a conducting junction diode. Conducting junction diode, that means the diode is basically forward bias. Okay, so what we had seen in the from the IV characteristic, that below the threshold voltage or below the cutting voltage, which is basically represented by V gamma, the current flowing through the forward bias diode is very small. Okay, as the voltage goes beyond the Q-tin voltage, the current starts to rise exponentially. Okay, so what we can do is we can basically approximate the characteristic of a forward bias voltage for a forward bias voltage greater than the Q-tin voltage by a straight line. Okay, having slope 1 by RF, where RF is basically the slope. Okay, this slope is 1 by RF. Okay, where RF is basically the forward resistance of the diode. Okay, so diode, or can be called as diode forward resistance. So this RF is basically the diode forward resistance. Okay, so we can approximate the IV characteristic of a diode. Okay, by a straight line. Okay, by a straight line having slope 1 by RF. Okay, if the applied voltage is greater than the cutting voltage, which is basically being represented by V gamma. Okay, so if we draw the equivalent circuit of this conducting diode, it basically looks like somewhat like this. Okay, for a voltage greater than V gamma, if I write down the equation of this particular straight line, okay, if I write down the equation of this particular straight line, we will be getting an equation somewhat like this. Okay, so from there I can approximate the circuit of this diode by a voltage source in series with a resistance, which is basically RF, which is basically the diode forward resistance. Okay, so you can easily write down this equation from here. The total applied voltage across the diode is V, and here there is a voltage which is basically V gamma. So what is the voltage drop across this resistance RF? It's nothing but V minus V gamma. Okay, so according to not VF, it should be V gamma. Okay, so V minus V gamma is basically the voltage across the resistance RF. Okay, so now according to Ohm's law, V minus V gamma should be equals to I into RF. So this is basically the equivalent circuit of a conducting junction diode. Okay, so now if we consider an ideal diode, for an ideal diode, basically your V gamma or the cutting voltage should be 0, and this RF, that means diode forward resistance, should be also 0. Okay, so in that case we'll be getting a circuit characteristic somewhat like this. Okay, so this is basically the IV characteristics of an ideal diode. Okay. So next we are moving on to breakdown in diodes. Okay, we have shown earlier, in fact from the IV characteristic itself we have shown that when the diode is forward bias, okay, when the diode is forward bias, okay, the current flowing through it is very high if the applied voltage, if the forward bias voltage is greater than the threshold voltage or the cutting voltage. Okay, but when a reverse bias voltage is applied across it, okay, when a reverse bias voltage is basically applied across the diode, what happens? The width of the depletion region increases. Okay, the width of the depletion region increases. As a result, it becomes much more difficult for the MIGD carriers to cross the PN junction. Okay, it becomes much more difficult for the majority carriers to cross the PN junction. Okay, so as a result, the current flowing through them is very less. Wow, what is the reason for this current? Although your majority carriers are not crossing the junction, the reason for this current flowing through the diode is basically the due to the diffusion of the minority carriers. Okay, because although in n-type semiconductor your electrons are in majority carrier, but holes are present there. They are minority carriers. Okay, the concentration of the minority carriers are very much less as compared to those of majority carrier. So as a result, the current flowing due to the conduction of this minority carrier is very less. So as a result, in the reverse bias state, okay, in the reverse bias state, the current flowing through the diode is very less. Okay, that is basically called the reverse saturation current. Okay, now what happens if we go on increasing the reverse bias voltage? Okay, from the IV characteristic itself we have seen that this is basically the forward bias state. Okay, this is basically the forward bias state, and this is basically the threshold voltage or the cut-in voltage. Okay, and what happened in the reverse bias state? The current flowing through the diode is very small. Okay, this is very small. This current is basically the reverse saturation current, and it remains more or less same irrespective of the applied voltage. Okay, unless and until a voltage is reached. Okay, at this voltage suddenly the current flowing through the diode increases to a very high value. Okay, so at this stage we say that the diode has gone into the breakdown region. Okay, at this stage we say that the diode has gone into the breakdown region. When we go on applying the reverse bias, go on increasing the reverse bias voltage, what happens at a particular voltage? Okay, at a particular voltage, suddenly the current flowing through the diode becomes very high. Okay, so at that instant we say that the diode has gone into the breakdown region. So at that instant the voltage across the diode more or less remains same. Okay, so at that state we say that the diode has gone into the breakdown region. Now in case of a diode, there are two mechanisms by which breakdown takes place. What are those two mechanisms? First one is basically the avalanche breakdown. Okay, and the second one is the Zener breakdown. So there are two mechanisms by which breakdown takes place in a diode. Okay, but usually whenever we mean a breakdown of a diode, we generally mean Zener breakdown. Although there are two types of breakdown existing in a diode. Okay, so what is the avalanche breakdown and what is Zener breakdown? Okay, first of all, starting with avalanche breakdown. Okay, what is happening is, as we are increasing the reverse bias voltage, okay, as we are increasing the reverse bias voltage of a diode, the electric field intensity is basically going on increasing. Okay, the electric field intensity is going on increasing, and at a particular reverse bias voltage, okay, at a particular reverse bias voltage, the electric field intensity becomes sufficiently high. Okay, the electric field intensity becomes sufficiently high to impart enough energy to the electrons. Okay, to impart enough energy to the thermally generated electrons so as to collide with the ions. Okay, so as to collide with the ions. It can be donor ions or your acceptor ions. So it imparts sufficient amount of this energy to this electron. Okay, to this valence electron, so as to collide with the ions. Okay, and as soon as they collide with the ions, what happens? The covalent bond. Okay, the covalent bond of that particular ion breaks. Okay, resulting in a formation of electrons and holes. Okay, these electrons and holes gain further energy from this high electric field in order to collide with some other ions. Okay, and this process is cumulative in nature. Okay, so due to this cumulative in nature, suddenly the concentration of the electron becomes very high, and as a result a huge amount of current starts to flow through this particular diode, and at that instant we say that avalanche breakdown has taken place. Okay, on the other hand, what happens in case of a Zener breakdown is, in case of a Zener breakdown, okay, the applied reverse bias voltage, okay, the applied reverse bias voltage is as we go on increasing the reverse bias voltage, at a particular voltage, this reverse bias voltage becomes sufficiently strong to rupture a covalent bond. Okay, to rupture a covalent bond and in order to free the electrons. Okay, to rupture a covalent bond and to free the electrons. So as a result, the concentration of the free electrons increases, and at that instant we say that basically the Zener breakdown has taken place. Okay, so what is the difference between avalanche breakdown and Zener breakdown? Let us write down this thing in the form of a table. So here we will be writing down avalanche breakdown. Just I am writing avalanche, it's avalanche breakdown basically, and here we are having Zener breakdown. So first difference. So what is the main reason for the occurrence of this avalanche breakdown? It is basically the collision of the electrons with the ions. Okay, so is this avalanche breakdown takes place due to the collision of electrons with the ions. Okay, this electrons basically collides with the ions, and as a result the covalent bond, okay, the covalent bond for in that ion basically breaks down, which releases more electron and hole pair. Okay, that electron gains sufficient energy from the applied electric field or from the from the applied reverse bias voltage, okay, so as to collide with some other ions, and this process is basically cumulative in nature. Okay, on the other hand, in case of Zener breakdown, okay, direct rupture of the covalent bond takes place. Okay, so in this case there is no collision of electrons with the ions. Okay, the applied reverse bias voltage, okay, at a particular reverse bias voltage, the electric field intensity becomes so high that the covalent bond ruptures and it releases electrons. Okay, it releases electrons in the conduction band. Okay, so the concentration of the free electron in the conduction band increases. So at that time we say that the Zener breakdown has taken place. Okay, so when does your avalanche breakdown takes place? Okay, avalanche breakdown takes place generally in a lightly doped diode and at a higher voltage. Okay, it will be around greater than 6 volt. Okay, on the other hand, your Zener breakdown takes place in a highly doped diode at a low voltage. Okay, the third difference is when avalanche breakdown takes place, the diode is completely destroyed. Okay, on the other hand, in Zener breakdown, they are not destroyed. Okay, they can be reused again if we remove the reverse bias voltage. Okay, so for that reason, generally whenever we say breakdown diode, we generally mean Zener diode. Okay, in fact, Zener diode are specially constructed diode so as to work in the reverse bias state. We will be covering that up later on. Okay, but no such avalanche diode exists. Okay, so this is basically destroyed. On the other hand, this is basically they are not destroyed. The fourth difference, which is very important, is that avalanche breakdown has got positive temperature coefficient. On the other hand, your Zener breakdown has got a negative temperature coefficient. Okay, so what does that imply? As we increase the temperature of the diode, first of all, let us discuss about this Zener breakdown. As we are increasing the temperature of the diode, okay, as we are increasing the temperature of the diode, electrons gain sufficient thermal energy. Okay, electrons gain sufficient thermal energy so as to move on into the conduction band. So as a result, this Zener breakdown takes place at a lower voltage. Okay, so that means the Zener breakdown voltage decreases with the increasing temperature. So as a result, we say that they are having negative temperature coefficient because the breakdown voltage is decreasing with the increase in the temperature. On the other hand, in case of positive temperature coefficient, on the other hand, in case of avalanche breakdown, what happens with the increase in temperature? Okay, with the increase in temperature, vibration of the ions increases. Okay, as a result, the possibility of the collision of the electrons with the ions increases. Okay, so for that reason, the chances of gaining sufficient energy in between the collision basically reduces. So as a result, the voltage has to be increased. So this avalanche breakdown voltage increases with the increase in the temperature. So that means they are having positive temperature coefficient. Okay, the collision, as the temperature increases, the vibration of the ions increases. So as a result, the possibility of the collision of the electron with the ion increases. Okay, but the gain of energy, okay, in between the collision, okay, the chance of gaining a sufficient amount of energy in between the collision by an electron reduces. So as a result, the voltage has to be increased in order to take the diode to the breakdown region. So as a result, the avalanche breakdown voltage increases with the increase in temperature. So that means we say that they are having positive temperature coefficient. Okay, so these are some basic differences between the avalanche breakdown and Zener breakdown. Okay, there some more differences can be denoted, but these are the major difference. Okay, so this is basically your breakdown in diodes. So Zener diodes. Zener diodes are basically represented somewhat like this. They are specially designed so as to operate in the breakdown region. Okay, they are specially designed so as to operate in the breakdown region. When they are operating in the breakdown region, what happens? Irrespective of the current flowing through it, the voltage across it basically remains same. We have seen this from the characteristic of the VI characteristic. Okay, we have seen it from the IV characteristic of diode in the breakdown region. Okay, irrespective of the current flowing through it, this is basically the breakdown region. So in the breakdown region, irrespective of the current flowing through it, the voltage across the diode remains same. So this concept is used in voltage regulator. So for that reason, this Zener diode are very much common in voltage regulator in order to keep the voltage across the load to be constant irrespective of any changes. Okay, so a voltage regulator circuit looks like somewhat like this. So it always connected in the reverse bias state. So say suppose the voltage across the diode is Vz. This is say suppose resistance R. This is the load resistance Rn, and this is the applied voltage V. Okay, so a current I is flowing through the circuit, and this current I is getting split into two parts. First one is your current through the diode, and second is basically the current through the load. Okay, so the voltage, okay, the voltage across the Zener diode basically remains same irrespective of the current flowing through it. Okay, irrespective of the current flowing through it. Obviously, the current, the maximum current which is flowing through this particular diode, okay, should be restricted. The maximum value of this current should be restricted as depending upon the dissipation power of the diode, which is provided by the manufacturer itself. Okay, so the maximum dissipation power, okay, the maximum dissipation power P max, okay, is basically given by Iz max into Vz. Okay, it's given by Iz max into Vz. Okay, so this maximum dissipation power of a diode is given. So obviously this maximum value of this current should not exceed this particular value. Okay, so the current should always be less than this maximum value. Okay, so this is the case. Now what happens in case of a voltage regulator circuit? Okay, say suppose we are assuming right now that this voltage is constant irrespective of the current flowing through it. So what are the various equations which we will be getting? First of all, if I apply KVL in this loop, okay, if I apply KVL in this loop, what will I be getting? I will be getting V is equals to I into R plus Vz. Okay, this is my first equation. Okay, let me write down as equation number 1. Secondly, this Vz, okay, the voltage across the diode is same as the voltage across the load resistance. So that means our Vz will be equals to IL into RL. So this is my equation number 2. Okay, so we have to keep the voltage across the load resistance to be constant. Okay, so how this voltage regulator circuit can be used? So there can be two cases. First case is that the supply voltage is kept constant, but this load resistance is a variable one. Okay, so if the supply voltage is kept constant and this load resistance is a variable one, then what will I be getting? So case 1, V is constant and RL is variable. So at this instant what will happen? Delta V will be 0 because V is constant, so this voltage is not varying. Delta Vz will also be 0. Okay, delta Vz will also be 0. Okay, and obviously delta R is also 0. This resistance is not changing, just this resistance is changing by some amount, suppose delta RL. Okay, this resistance is changing by some amount, suppose delta RL. Sorry. Now if we look into the equation number 1, okay, V is equals to IR plus Vz. Okay, so if I take the changes in this particular values, what will I be getting? I will be getting delta V is equals to delta I times R plus delta Vz. This term is 0, this term is 0, so obviously delta I will also come out to be equal to 0. Okay, so that means there is no change in the current supplied by the source. Okay, now if I consider the second equation, then delta Vz, okay, delta Vz will be equals to so this load resistance is varying by some amount, suppose delta RL. Okay, so obviously we need one more equation because here IL and RL both are variable. Okay, so from where we will be getting the third equation? Third equation we can easily get it from by applying KCL at this particular node. We know that the total incoming current is I, but the total outgoing current is IZ plus IL. So this is the total outgoing current. Okay, so according to KCL, the algebraic sum of the incoming current should be equal to the algebraic sum of the outgoing current. So this is my equation number 3. Okay, so now if I consider equation number 3, okay, before considering equation number 2, let us consider equation number 3. Then what I will be getting is, I will be getting delta I is equals to delta IZ plus delta IL. Now we have already seen that delta I is 0. So it's quite obvious that delta IL should be equal to minus of delta IZ. Okay, so that means if we change the load resistance keeping the supply voltage constant, so in order to maintain the load voltage to be constant, there will be some change in this load current. Okay, and there will be also some change in the current flowing through the diode. Okay, if this current increases, then this current will reduce. On the other hand, if this current reduces, then this current will increase, or this current reduces, then this current will increase by same amount. Okay, by same amount, so as to keep the supply voltage to be constant. Okay, so this is the first case. Now let us move on to the second case. So second case is when V is variable and RL is constant. So in this case, what we will be getting is V is variable. Say suppose it is changing by delta V amount. Okay, delta Vz is 0 and here delta RL is also 0. Okay, so now if I consider my first equation, obviously this R will also be constant, it's not changing. So if I consider my first equation, then delta V will be equals to delta I times R plus delta Vz. Okay, so delta Vz is 0. Okay, delta Vz is 0. We don't know about delta V, but it's some finite value. Okay, so what we'll be getting is we'll be simply getting delta V is equals to delta I times R. Okay, so that means this current will change by an amount delta I due to changing the supply voltage by an amount delta V. Okay, is it clear? Now, if we consider this equation, okay, equation number 2, then what I will be getting is I will be getting delta Vz is equals to delta IL times RL. RL is not changing. Okay, here load resistance is constant. Now delta Vz is 0. Okay, so what implies that delta IL into RL should be 0. So what does it imply? It simply implies that delta IL will be equal to 0. So that means there will be no change in the value of the load resistance. If there is no change in the value of the load resistance, the total current, okay, rather the total voltage, the total current remains same. So as a result, the voltage drop across this load resistance also remains same, because there is no change in the current. Okay, there is no change in the current flowing through this load resistance due to change in the supply voltage. So as a result, the voltage drop across this load resistance will also remain same. Okay, and what about if I consider equation number 3? If I consider equation number 3, then delta I is equals to delta Iz plus delta IL. So delta IL is 0. So that means delta I should be equal to delta Iz. So increase in this current supplied by the source will be same as the increase in the current flowing through the Zener diode. Okay, so in this way basically we can use this Zener diode as a voltage regulator. Next come last topic, which basically comes out to be varactor diode or varicaps. Okay, so what happens in case of a diode is that in case of a junction diode, there is basically a depletion region. Okay, there is basically a depletion region which is depleted of any mobile charges. Okay, only uncovered charges or immobile charges are present in this depletion region. Okay, only immobile charges are present in this depletion region. Okay, now what happens is, since these charges are present here, we can consider this region as a capacitor. Okay, storing charges. They are storing charges. Okay, so we can consider this region to be a capacitor. Okay, and the capacitance of this capacitor is voltage dependent. Okay, the capacitance of this capacitor is voltage dependent. Okay, if I increase the reverse bias voltage, okay, if I increase the reverse bias voltage, what happens? The width of this depletion region increases. Okay, if I increase the reverse bias voltage, the width of this depletion region increases. Okay, so as a result, the capacitance of this capacitor decreases, because we know that the capacitance of a parallel plate capacitor is given by epsilon times A by B. Okay, so as a result, due to changing the width of the depletion region, this D is increasing. Okay, since D is increasing, the capacitance will decrease. Okay, so what we are getting is, we are getting a voltage dependent capacitor, voltage dependent variable capacitor. Okay, so as we increase the voltage, the capacitance basically reduces. Okay, the capacitance basically reduces due to increase in the distance, due to increase in the width of the depletion region. Okay, so this concept is used in a special type of diode, which is basically called a varactor diode or varicaps. Okay, this varicap can be used for tuning purpose as well. Okay, so this is your varactor diode, which is nothing but a voltage dependent variable capacitor. So this is all for today. Thank you everyone.